Hello and welcome once again to TLC Unfiltered. Today's title is Bridging Over Troubled Waters. My name is Emmanuel Sonubi.
And my name's Ian Murphy, and we're joined today by Tim Grieveson, TLC Advisory Board Member and CSO.
Hi Tim, how you doing?
I'm very well, how are you?
Not too bad. Thank you for asking, because Ian never asked me that.
Whoa. I always ask you that. Do you need a cuddle?
Not once. Don't ever touch me again. I hate you. You're dead to me. So the conversation of today is communication, specifically communication between tech and non-tech people. So where does the issue start with that?
That's a question for, when he looks at you.
I was proving the point.
I thought that I was communicating that quite clear by going, where does that start?
Do you vet the guests at all?
I was proving the point.
Can we get...
I was proving the point.
Keep that in.
So where does all that start? Tim.
I think part of the problem is the industry doesn't help itself. No, we use lots of very complicated language. We use acronyms all the time. And we don't seem to be able to communicate in a language that the board, our colleagues and non-technologists understand.
So right, let's give an example, actually. What would be a good example of a piece of terminology that is used that you always have to explain?
Malware, antivirus, endpoints, cloud. It goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
You know, the business continues.
Because marketing doesn't help in some cases. Like, you think how many products are geared to, say, for example, like you said, cloud, some sort of cloud solution. And the amount of times I've been in boardrooms and when the person said cloud, they've gone, yeah, it's in the cloud. And there's nothing there, actually. And you think something like cloud as a service has always been around. It's just now it's been coined a phrase. And people, don't really understand what a lot of this... So do you think that's where the problem comes from?
I think the problem comes from the media. The media have done a really good job to talk about the cloud, to talk about the technology, but they don't explain what it means in business terms, in the language the board and the executives actually understand.
Or they come up with buzzwords like cloud first, or things like that, which absolutely mean nothing.
Or 0 day, or zero touch. Languages that the business doesn't really correlate to and understand, because they're all about contribution and margin and risk and governance.
Yeah. Is zero touch a secure? I knew you were thinking it.
I'm fighting it. I was like, I'm not a fan of zero touch, if I'm being honest. It's just not the way forward, I think.
Yeah.
I like to be hands-on.
We're against zero touch.
We are against it.
We are, yeah. I mean, it's a term to enable organisations to deploy something without human intervention. So if you start to think of AI and automation and orchestration.
Do you think part of that confusion gets driven by the vendors in terms of there's almost an arms race to coin the next phrase and own that phrase, and is there too much confusion being generated by somebody wanting to call a shovel a digging implement or something like that rather than just calling it a shovel?
I think so, to an extent, because it's how many times can you reinvent the wheel?
Yeah.
So if you're bringing out a new solution, a new feature of a solution, you can't call it the same thing because we just bought that.
Yeah.
So it has to have its new name.
Yeah.
For if you like. So you sort of, it is that whole, let's create a problem and then let's give you the tool to fix it.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really fair. Is the challenge is not that there's a new feature. It's a new feature to something that we're not trying to solve. You know, if you talk to the vendors often, they come up with a new capability which is going to cost you more money.
Yeah.
Because it's a new feature or it's a silver bullet to something that you probably already have a solution to.
And as part of that communication, do you think there's a breakdown in vendors trying to actually communicate what the issue is they're solving for the customer rather than list off a bunch of unique selling points? And if you've got more than one, they're not unique selling points. There's more than one, it's not unique, right? So
I spend a lot of time talking to suppliers and partners and vendors, and they're always trying to talk to me about the next thing that they think is suitable for me.
Yeah.
Spend a lot less time listening.
Yeah.
Now, for me, it should be 80% listening and 20% speaking. But you always get the vendor coming in and talking about what they think is the right thing, rather than actually asking, what's the problem that I have and the problem we're trying to solve as a business. So I think part of the problem is not actually the communication, it's the amount of communication versus listening. Or lack of listening.
Yeah. How does that translate for you? Because obviously you're effectively given a message, and then you've got to go and translate that message to your board. So how is the communication between you and the rest of the business?
Sure. Well, I class myself as the Chief Storytelling Officer, the CSO, rather than the Chief Security Officer. Part of my role is to take that techie babble, translate it into business speak, take the business requirements, the business objectives, and bring it back into techie speak. But often the vendor doesn't equip me with what I need. It will tell me the speeds, the feeds, the features, and not the actual business problem and the way we can solve that problem together. Yeah. So it often means talking to a vendor, because all the vendors come up with the same new technology or the new capability. But is that actually something I want to buy?
Yeah. So on a real sort of base level, I when I went to renew my phone contract, and this was when it was from 4G to 5G, and I just wanted SIM only. So I don't care about moving forward, like to go ahead with 5G. But I'm thinking realistically, I spend 80% of my time on a Wi-Fi network. So having that speed, I don't need it. And they were like, but 5G is the best. And they gave me all the speeds of how great it was. I was like, right, you tell me one piece of information that I need to get my hands on 4 seconds quicker than if I was in that. And then the person just couldn't speak. Yeah. And you think that's what happens on a much larger scale with how many different solutions you go, but this is what it can do. You're like, but I don't need it to do that.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is when you talk to the vendor, they typically talk about their product and they don't talk about how they interact with others. And I think the real important thing with a security strategy is how do you tie all of the components and the ingredients together to build the cake, as it were. And if you're building a point solution, you'll always have lots of point solutions. Many of the organisations I've worked in, we've had hundreds of security technologies, but they don't interact well. So I think the vendors can do much better by really listening to the requirements of the customer and then making them integrate more seamlessly, rather than having to have 50 solutions when 2 or 3 actually will be good enough.
But it's generally not in their best interest to help that happen. It's why we've all got different plugs and different chargers and stuff like that. And we did it when I worked for Symantec 20 years ago. We had something called SESA, Semantic Enterprise Security Architecture. It was where we brought all the products together in like a wedding cake thing, and we built it up. And because we had that many different products at that time, and I still see people struggling to do that today, to explain how all of that fits together, not even just from the same product, but from an enterprise security architecture point of view,
Yeah, and I think that's because people normally start with the tech, rather than actually starting with the requirements. Yeah. And you'll often find that technology partners or vendors will always talk to the techs. Yeah. They very rarely talk to the business, and they don't talk to the CFO.
A lot of that is driven by things like compliance. So if you look at something like PCI DSS, for example, it's a list of 12 things. So someone goes, right, I need to change the settings of this from anything other default. Done. Yeah. I need an AV. Done. I need a firewall. Done. But they don't think how do all these things work together.
And I think thinking of security as a holistic approach, I think it's a better approach, rather than thinking of it as these list of things you can bolt together. So I think compliance is important, but security should lead. It shouldn't be compliance leading to make yourself secure. So when we look at our program, for example, where I work today, we looked at where is our current state, where is our future state, what's that journey we need to get on, and we actually really set up a 5-year plan. But we built that plan to do the right thing for security in the right areas, so you can prioritise, rather than just throwing all technology at it and leading with the wrong end.
If anything, that plan needs to be technology agnostic, right? So, you don't know what technologies you need until you know what risks you're facing and what the business actually does. So many people don't bother going into sales meetings by looking at what the business what do you do? Do you sell widgets? What are you doing? So if you're a fish and chip shop, you don't need a a seam. You just don't. So, you know...
I would love to see a fish and chip shop that has a seam in the back.
That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Just a great big comms room in the back.
Is that to prevent phishing attacks? Then?
Hey! That'll do. Yes. Get in there.
Yeah.
Thank you, we're out.
That wasn't even planned.
There wasn't. Isn't it good, though, to be back in the studio again? Because it seems like, after the last episode, it seems like we were only just here, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I'll drop, right, question. So, internally, and I've seen this happen for different companies, and there's a practice. They do it a lot of American companies, actually, where people will go and work in different departments to get an understanding of those what those departments do. Do you think that's something that the people at board level would actually be able to utilise and get some more knowledge from? Because I find a lot of the time, if you don't understand what that department really does, you can't really understand the issues that they're facing. Do you reckon that's something that could be implemented by companies or would be useful for a company?
Definitely. So, not in my current organisation, but in a previous organisation, we did that twofold. We had the board come down and work with the people on the tools, and we also had the people on the tools go and understand what we did in the field.
Yeah.
So it was a security company working in hot and sandy places of the world. And part of the operations were including mapping and travel and movement of personnel. The security team and the IT team didn't really understand why it was important that we had 24/7 access to that. It was always available. So I sent people out to those geographies. They spent 2 or 3 weeks out in the field with the people who used the technology.
Yeah.
And the amount of information and wealth of knowledge that came back, we were able to re-engineer how we were delivering the service. And we understood that when somebody phones up and said X solution was so critical and it was unavailable, they really understood the impact. Back to Ian's point earlier on about the risk.
See, back to my point. But the thing that's going through my mind now when you talk about being in those hot and sandy places is I tan terribly. I really do. I have to wear factor duffel coat. There's vampires that are more resilient to the sun than I am.
You're like a closet redhead.
I am.
Well, look at me. I'm ginger and blonde. I go orange.
I mean, notice he said I sent them out there. He didn't go. Burnt to a crisp. Burnt to a crisp.
We've had to turn the lights down on these. These two nearly died. I'm okay, by the way. Just so you know, I'm all right.
Oh dear.
I have on my factor 1.
But I think the important point there was really about understanding the organisation.
Yeah.
And I hate actually using the word the business because technology and security and IT is part of the business. It's another function. But
it's
technology,
not just a function. Nowadays, it's an enabler.
Well, it's critical. And you constantly hear security people and IT people talking about the business or the operations. We're part of the operations. We're actually part of the solution.
Yeah.
And I think we have to change the language, and I think often we do it to ourselves.
Do you shudder when you hear the horror stories of CISOs not being included in board discussions and things like that? Do you think to yourself in the back of your mind, this is just a comms issue? This really is the person in that role is not doing an effective enough job to convince the board of the necessity, or that the boards are just tin-eared and security's right all along, that nobody listens to us?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it because it sounds a little bit like a consulting answer, but
yeah.
It does depend. Some boards are much more mature in terms of their understanding and thinking of where security and IT sits. Others, the individual that's in the seat, in the storytelling position, might not have the right language, might be disconnected from the organisation. So yeah. I think it does depend on the situation.
A lot of it will depend on the age of the company as well. Yeah. So you look at, for example, there's Misguided, who are completely online only, and they've always been the way because of the time in which they started the business. But then you go to a business that's 150 years old and they've got legacy data that's sat in containers that they're never going to use and got no idea even where to start with.
Yeah.
So if you've got a company that is set up with people that have come from other walks of life but they've started from now, they're probably more likely to understand the nature of how you can make everything work as an organisation.
Do you think then enterprise can learn from the fintechs of the world and the new startups?
100%. It's what's new And because you can have, it's people, we're creatures of habit. It is very easy to go, this works, I'm going to keep doing it, regardless if there's other ways of doing things. But I know this works, so I can keep going with that one. So you think it's the sense of, you remember back in the day, like if you were driving, every car had an A to Z of the entire country, and you'd have it works. It's much longer, but you still get from where you want to go to where you want to be. Whereas you got a sat nav now, and it is, even if you look at the technology of how cars have changed. So I don't have to put something in there. I can plug my phone in. Apple CarPlay comes up, which means companies are going, we don't need to spend so much money on a glossy infotainment when all people want to do is plug the phone in.
Yeah.
You can do it the other way. It works, but it might take longer. It might not be as effective.
So it's about access and operability and not losing sight of the customer.
Yes.
I think is really important. To your point, yes, it's engaging with the board, but it's also understanding your business.
Yeah.
And I've used the word the business, but when I use the word business here, I'm talking about what does the end customer buy?
Yeah.
When we're building a product or we're selling a service, building that into the ecosystem of what you're supporting and securing and protecting helps you actually design better products and better services and really understand how you deliver that. So, fintechs use a lot of technology and they use an engagement model which corporate IT, when it's an older organisation, sometimes doesn't use.
But there's also the flip side to that, where if you are a pure bricks and mortar play, where you don't need some of that stuff, right? So you don't need to implement that, even though there's some flashy salesperson trying to force you into buying something and putting it on the cloud when you haven't got a clue what it is.
Yeah, it's understanding it, isn't it?
Yeah.
And understanding where it has a part to play.
And I think that comes back to that comms issue. And I think it also comes back to knowing who or what the product or the technology benefits, but also as well on the CISO side, from an experience point of view, understanding what the business is there to do. You said that you're the translator between the two. And you've got to be that trusted advisor, not only to the board, but also to the people who are no doubt hounding your LinkedIn inbox 20 million times a day or something like that, just asking for 15 minutes of your time.
I feel really privileged actually being in the security seat, because no one is better placed than us to understand what happens in the organisation, because you can see the good things, the bad things, you can see how all the interactions work. So I feel really humble.
Yeah.
And it's about building an organisation with really smart people, but they're not all technologists. So part of what I'm looking at now is when I'm recruiting, yes, I bring some very smart technology and some very able security people on, but if they can't communicate and they can't market and they can't explain things to the organisation, then you're missing. You really need to have that capability.
There's a lot of companies now that because you think the stereotype of the IT person from years ago is very much changed now. IT has become, weirdly enough, not cooler. So now what I've found a lot of companies are looking for are people that, even first, second line support, that can communicate to someone how to fix a problem remotely. Because if you can't, if someone says, I call up someone, I'm working from home, I've got an issue with my laptop. It's not just me communicating to them what's wrong. They need to communicate to me what I can do to solve that issue. So there's a lesson in communication now starting to play a much bigger part in every facet of business.
I think the COVID pandemic's had a real good benefit as well as the negativity. It's given us an opportunity to accelerate some of that, delivering services remotely, communicating to people that you might not have necessarily spoken to. But as you say, not having to go out to actually the desk side and communicate, but do that in a non-touch view, but being able to go and speak to people, articulate things so they can go and self-serve and fix themselves. But also being much more, as I said, customer-focused and customer-centric.
There's something that's intrigued me for a long time around cybersecurity, or security as it was back in the day. Is there a certain type of person that gravitates to that? Because I've been on numerous change boards and things like that throughout my career where I feel like I'm the only adult in the room. And if I'm the only adult in the room, God knows what the rest of the people are up to, right? They must be painting on the walls or stuff like that. But I ask the awkward questions. I always ask the awkward questions. And I just want to know whether that's me, probably is, or whether it's a cybersecurity trait where we point to the anomaly and go,
I think it's a personality trait.
Do you think?
Because there's many people that work in different facets of security that are the type of the people that like to fix problems.
Yeah.
Or like to solve puzzles, and people that will ask, because you do need to sometimes ask awkward questions, whether or not it's going to upset somebody. But if it's a question you don't know the answer, you need to ask the question. But I don't think everyone is geared towards that. Like I said, the way people you think used to be, people that worked in IT before security sort of became a big facet of IT, were very much reclusive.
Yeah.
I think security people are naturally inquisitive. You know, I often have conversations with my team where they laugh. They said, "Look, pointing, I found a thing."
Yeah.
You know, and then they'll dig into that thing, and then that thing becomes a much bigger thing. And I think it does take a certain personality to not just close a ticket, but actually get to the point of what was the.
I think there's a very thin line as well between someone who could be sort of, you go, white hat, black hat as well.
Yeah.
Because you do any security. I've done physical security in the sense of, can I go into somebody's office and take hard drives?
Yeah.
We've done this for retail. I've done this for so many different industries, to the point where if I walk into a building, my natural instinct is to look around and go, how would I break into this place? Like, you're constantly looking for holes in systems. It like just flaws everywhere.
It drives my wife mad. I'm exactly the same. I'm always looking behind and looking around and seeing where are the CCTV cameras and where's the door access.
I've walking through. I was on a cruise ship a little while ago, and when they've got their wireless access points, I'm like walking around. I'm just ignore it like a normal person. I'm stuck. I'm going, okay. They've put the name. They've actually put the name of it on there. I was like, they've not changed. You could just plug something straight into that. They've not done anything to secure that port physically.
Yeah.
I was like, this could be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And you're in open plan areas as well, you know, in receptions, and they've got, you know, typically the health and safety sign up, and they've got a list of all the first aiders with their email address and phone numbers. And if you were a bad actor, you're gaining all of that intelligence. So I think it's thinking slightly differently is you know, a good trait that we have as security professionals.
It is. So I think it's a good trait, but it's also a bad trait because right-minded people don't think like that all the time.
That's the thing.
But you have to be.
I've been in offices like having a meeting with someone, and they go, let me go and check this. And they walk out and leave their laptop open, and my brain goes, send an email. Send an email right now. Something disgusting. Send it out. That's the only one they'll learn. I mean, I could just close the laptop.
You could do.
And tell them.
And be responsible.
But I prefer to do it my way. That's a lot more fun.
But that's the child in you, isn't it?
Yeah.
but that's also, it's probably a lesson that they'd learn. They'd learn that more than the lesson of you just closing the laptop and telling them it was closed.
Yeah.
But I always think about this, and it's weird. I did an apprenticeship. So my first 4 years was stuck amongst hairy-ass mechanics who you couldn't move without them ridiculing you and stuff like that. What we're talking about is a version, it's a very watered-down version of that. But if you did that today, my God, would you be for the high jump for HR and stuff like that, you know? So you couldn't send an email out saying, I've left my laptop open, the drinks are on me, blah, blah, blah. Because somebody had complained to HR. Yeah. Despite the fact that what you've done is potential breach into the network by walking away and not doing that, you know? So it's kind of... I worry about the resilience of the modern workplace. You know, I worry about it a little bit because actually... what could be seen as fun, as playful type of thing, somebody could take it the wrong way. We've spoken about this before, haven't we?
It is much more. I think so. I think because you go, common sense comes into play here, and then it also comes knowing your audience. Yeah. Because there will be people, because they're just relationships, and what if in that situation all that's happening is, you're saying, I don't have that relationship with you. Yeah. Well, because if you did that to me, I'd go, that's hilarious. But then obviously you do it. So it's very much, if you've got to know the person.
Yeah. So you make a really valid point there. It's about knowing the audience, knowing the people that you're dealing with, and tailoring the message. So back to communication, it's about having the right message to the right people at the right level at the right time. Yeah. You know, if you get it wrong and you misjudge it, you're absolutely right. You're dragged in front of HR. Yeah. Or, you know, you've completely lost your audience. So I think it's about assessing the situation and tailoring the message, whether it be good or bad, to the right level, to the right people. And often using different, you know, methods and models really helps with that.
Yeah. What kind of methods and models have you found effective to work with that? You mentioned storytelling. What other things have you found effective to get those points over, either above or below where you're sitting?
Sure. I think exercises, so scenarios. So if you're looking at crisis management as an example, which comes under my area of responsibility, running through a simulation of an actual crisis is really useful because it's safe. You've got the opportunity to learn without having to run around, at the last minute. But actually, it allows you to find where the things that work and the things that don't work.
Yeah.
And we found it really useful because we found areas of the business that we thought really had a good communication plan and a good understanding of its assets didn't.
Do you tell them that you're doing it, or is it like when you do a fire drill?
So we do both. So the way that we tailor ours, where I am today and where I have in the past, is we do annual training, we do quarterly training. Those are normally planned in advance.
Is that for everyone?
It's for what we call the ERC, so the Emergency Response Team and Committee.
Right.
We'll tend to bring in IT, we'll tend to bring in security on one of them. What we'll then do is extend it out to further, so we'll bring in comms and HR and legal. And then we might also bring in some of our R&D colleagues. We haven't brought a customer in, but I'm planning on with bringing a customer in as well. So how would we interact with that customer? Friendly customer, obviously. All of those are planned, but we also do simulations around, phishing and ransomware. We do a test on our, SOC and our response team. Those are typically unplanned because we're not just testing the capability, we're testing the controls and we're testing, their ability to let people know. So good example from a physical standpoint. Recently there was an incident in Paris at the Gare du Nord. 6:45 in the morning, 5 to 7, I get the call, incident occurred, accounted for the people. Because they'd done it that many times as part of an incident test, it just came natural. It's a little bit like the fire brigade, isn't it? They don't just rock up and run around, that they're in a bit of a panic. They've practiced. So I think communication and how you interact during a scenario when you're under pressure is really important. So to answer your question, yes, we do planned events, but we also do some simulated events that aren't planned and necessarily people know about.
It always amazes me the companies that don't do that, because you look at any professional sports person in the world, 95% of their time is spent training. Spent training for that 10-second sprint or that 90
You know what?
minutes.
It's not even just, you think, sport. You look at surgeons.
Yeah.
You look at healthcare professionals. It's pretty much, there's so many different industries where training and practice is paramount.
Yeah, and it's paid scant attention because actually there's a little tick box on the compliance sheet that says annual training. Somebody goes tick, done it. Yeah.
So I don't subscribe to annual training as a method at all.
Yeah.
We actually think of continuous training.
Yeah.
So the compliance tick box, yes, we do that like many organisations, but actually it's building a culture and building a continual learning and education process. So we'll tailor training towards various parts of the business. So finance and HR has specialist training. Our R&D community has a slightly different, more technical set of training. And then what we'll do is we'll have campaigns through the year. We'll have funny videos. We'll have some guest speakers come in. Yeah. We'll also get our executives to talk about how important security is what we do as well. So it's bottom down, top up. And then we'll also do is get some of our security personnel to be part of that and talk about their area. Because often the business, again using the word the business, or the organisation doesn't actually know what we do. You say, do you realise we do travel security and event security? Do you realise we do response detection forensics? And it's about getting that constant, reminder of what we do and how to report an incident is really important. Really.
We hear security culture all the time, actually, but some of the times where I've seen it being effective is it's just culture. So if there's a mental awareness week or something like that, security is part of it, or the strain to phishing or things like that, that can be...
Exactly how we do it. We link it into... and we weave it into something else that's happening. So it might be, data awareness week. Doing it at the same time, then we're doing, a major upgrade to one of our systems to manage customer personal data. Or, as you say, the mental awareness week, we did a little bit about social engineering and how people get into people's mindset and psyche. Culture, I think, is really important. And that's actually what we call our training team. It's the security awareness culture training team. So it's much more than just a course. It's about the mindset, and we've built a brand. We call it Think Secure.
Yeah.
So getting people to actually think about security in a way which is part of their role, rather than that security team in the corner that deals with it.
Because that's how you do with other things in life. Like, you don't leave your house and leave the door open because it's not your job.
No.
Yeah.
Health and safety in the same way. You'd stop and see something if there's a trip hazard. This is a trip of security and failure in the control.
And then you just sit there with a video camera, 250 quid. You've been paying.
Wait for someone to fall over it.
Yeah, happy days.
It's like those adverts you get with, was it the Claims Direct one? One of those. I find it hilarious. There was one of them where this lady was like, I was walking through the receptionist. I was walking through the reception and I didn't see the wet floor. And it's like a lake in the middle, in the middle of the reception. And I slipped over and hit my knee. I was like, if you didn't see the swimming pool in front of you, that's your fault. But then you think, who leaves that there and doesn't put, by the way, there's a hazard here.
Yeah.
You need it on sort of both sides, people to be aware and people to know, I need to identify
It's
this.
testing it as well, isn't it? You can deliver training, but how do you know it's being effective?
Yeah.
And I think it's positive reformation as well on something. It's not just negative behaviour, it's also
it needs
positive
to
behaviour.
be constant. There was a Microsoft course that we did this course during the day, then at the end of the day we did a test. And the reality would have been, is give me the test in a week's time. Because at the end of that test, I took the test and I passed at 96%. I took the same test 2 weeks later and failed miserably. Because I did it once and then it left my brain. Yeah. It has to be constant.
So that's back to my point: is the annual training session isn't really effective because people will swat it, do it, pass it, and then not do it again. Whereas if you're constantly doing it, we do it by campaign. Yeah. So it's a regular cadence, a regular tempo, but on topics that are relevant, and then tailor that to not only the corporate life, but people can take it home and use it in their private life as well.
Yeah.
And culture is really important. So we did some training last year, and it was massive in China, and I just couldn't understand why. And the reason it was massive was actually one of the ladies in the training had black lipstick. And I didn't realise that was massively on par in China at the time. So they were sending it to their friends and colleagues and their children. Wow. And that's something we hadn't really appreciated. Yeah. But actually, because of that black lipstick and the way that was on vogue in that particular geography, we got it out to more people than would traditionally have had it out. So it's really trying to bring that cultural mix into the training. And people receive things in different methods and different ways of receiving it.
So where do you think that change should stem from? Because you think this is something that could be beneficial to businesses across the board. So who do you think should be spearheading that change?
Everybody. But I know that's easy to say. But what we try to do in the organisations that I work with and have worked with in the past is it's not just the security team pushing, it's actually pulling. So we create what we call ambassador programs, so people out in the organisation being part of it. We give them a series of, in one organisation it was the Grieveson dollars. So we gave them some additional funding. They could go out and raise, whether it be campaign, and we had popcorn and a cinema, and we had video Netflix style training with a big rah-rah around it. We had some merchandise that we got, sort of swag, we got from some of our vendors. And what that did is it encouraged it at every level. So it's grassroots, and grassroots being in here in Wembley, grassroots right down to people on the shop floor, into the senior managers, into the customers, and we work together with the customers and partners. So I think to answer your question, everybody. But it's not just security, it's pulling.
You're not trying to make them experts, you're just trying to increase the savvy.
Give them enough. What we noticed was when we did some of our identification of phishing attacks in email, we actually saw a massive uptake of people really questioning. I might have clicked on this before, including some really senior people who traditionally might not have necessarily gone through it. They're now beginning to think because they've got enough knowledge not to necessarily know that is a security vulnerability or someone trying to social engineer them, but just to stop for a second, think, could it be? Have I looked at it? Have I identified it? That's what you're trying to encourage. Missing it once is a problem. but capturing it 2 or 3 times is much better for an organisation.
And then them asking somebody, could you have a look at this? What do you think? And then you including other people in, because you said about allowing them to take it home and show the family and friends and all. That's where it's ingrained in their memory. That's where the training doesn't leave them because they've just gone and taught it to somebody else.
Also, I think you're with that approach, you're allowing people to fail safely.
Yeah, that's important.
And I said earlier on, it's positiveness of something. So, we do phishing simulations, and rather than beating somebody with a stick to say you failed, we give them the opportunity to improve with a very short video. Yeah, so we haven't announced it to the world, we haven't told everyone they failed, but they have a 30-second. Just remember to look at these things.
Yeah.
And then we have a league table, so we have people and teams competing to make it fun. And then, as I said, potentially we're going to look at prizes for the people, the top group, whether it be finance or HR. And having that little bit of competitiveness and failing in a safe environment, and we've done some gamification in the same way, brings people together from different parts of the organisation who have different skills. Some are very technical, some are not, some are technical, some are marketing, some are finance, some are HR. You might be bridging those communication gaps that traditionally might have existed. So there's a byproduct of bringing people together for security training.
So what you're talking about has evolved over a long period of time. I can tell that by how you're talking about it, and because I'm involved in the training side of things, so I know what bad looks like. How do you get from bad to good? Because for those of you out there who are still punishing your people for clicking a link, and that's very bad of you, stop doing it at once. How do you get from there to where you are, which is an advanced cultural approach where people feel okay if they click on a link accidentally,
We're not there yet, Ian, if I'm honest with you. We're still on a journey.
Yeah.
And I think of it as a journey rather than a destination.
Yeah.
We have a target. We want 100% of employees trained.
Yeah.
That's incredibly difficult. When we started this exercise, probably 54% of the people were doing training.
Yeah.
I'm now hitting the late 90s. I'm sort of 97, 98% of people wanting to do the training. So I think the way we've matured it is make it small, simple and fun.
Yeah.
So rather than having, that hour and a half of training annually, we do bite-sized 15-minute, 20-minute pots.
Yeah.
Continually evolve it, so it's not the same training every year.
Yeah.
Get the organisation to help drive it. I think, as I said earlier on, it's not pushed by security, although I have someone who sits in my organisation. He spends a lot of his time working with his customer, both internally and externally. What works for them? What mechanisms do they want to receive it and digest it and consume it? Understand where you are. I think that's really important. Measurement is so important, metrics in everything security, but what's your starting point? Set yourself a realistic goal of where you'd like to get to, measure yourself against that, and actually make some failures. So we've been out and deployed some tools. We've screwed it up.
There's a lot to be gained in understanding. It's the whole knowing what you don't know.
Yeah.
Finding out that part of it and going, right, how can we then go and change this for the better? Because until you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And I think it's challenging yourself to do it differently. We traditionally had always done the same training in the same way, delivered to the same people. And what we try to do is shake that up.
It works. We've ticked the box. We can crack on and move on with it.
Yeah. But as I say, make it of interest to the consumer, and think of it like a little business. I treat our users as customers.
Yeah.
I don't like users because it sounds like we're drug dealers pushing it to our user. And the last thing I want to do is poison them. I want to actually give them something that's going to be beneficial.
Yeah. Plus, you'll also find that I've cornered the market in the drugs at your company as well.
Yeah, he's nailed it.
Yeah, I've nailed it.
You've done it.
No,
Perfect.
nobody's stepping on my patch. But you're right. You've got to, I think, and it's got to be up as well. So it's not your users, which, like you, I dislike the term because it dehumanises actually the people you're there to help. But it's not just the people who are underneath you; it's the people you're serving above you as well. It's how do you say how do you effectively say to your boss, the CEO?
You know nothing.
Don't
mate.
do that again.
So we had a real good example where our CEO and I did a video piece during COVID, talking about how important security was. He then worked with us and actually gave an example where he was a victim of vishing.
Yep.
So someone masqueraded as him, sent out messages using WhatsApp. We used that as a case study. And he actually said, look, even I can have it happen to me. And, he explained that what had happened and that the individual tried to masquerade as him and asking for some urgent funds. Fortunately, the person had done their cybersecurity training. They then immediately raised the flag and said, I don't think this is the CEO, but it looked like him, it sounded like him, the video looked like him. And it was very persistent and clearly it was targeted. But by him presenting and coming out and talking about that to the organisation was really useful.
Yeah.
Because it showed that he also took cybersecurity as really important.
Yeah.
It showed an example of what could happen to us as a business. And the other thing that was really key was we gave the message of the learnings, which is look out for these things and do this and, escalate in this way and tell the people. And the real life examples are much better than the hypothetical do this, do that.
Yeah, you're right.
And sometimes that's difficult because you don't want to tell too much.
Yeah.
But it's important to give an example of something that's true.
How do you see that next? So you talk about phishing and the impersonation and things like that. We've all seen them. We've all seen those. Could you just get us the gift cards and all that type of stuff? What about this next wave? What about the AI revolution in terms of what ChatGPT is doing? If I can feed it enough of your boss's emails to get the way they phrase things, then I can start sending those out, or and make people, or even the deep fake side of things where it's getting better. Voice impersonations are getting better as well. Where do you go with that next stage?
I think it's already here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's evolving. I think it's here. I think we always have to be cognizant of these things. They're the threat actor, the bad guys, whatever we want to call them, or the troublemaker, because often it's not necessary for money. It's to be troublesome. If you've upset a company or an employee. I think it's always evolving your security strategy, your posture, and never making the assumption it won't happen to you.
Yeah,
I've sat in forums like this before where we've had CISO talking to CISO. It frustrates me. We've always got security professionals talking to security professionals.
Yeah,
this is a great organisation to come and talk to people because the technology leaders brings together like-minded individuals. But I also see them bringing other individuals who are not security together as well. So CEOs, CFOs, CMOs. So we
didn't make him say that either. We didn't. He did that all on his own.
So we can bring together other organisations and individuals in the business, because otherwise it's security people talking to security. So to your question, it's here.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It's always evolving, and I think you have to be really thinking about where is the next chapter. Where's the next threat coming from?
Yeah, because bad people do what bad people do, right? And they use the tools at their disposal.
Yeah.
And I see so many people talking about it, and I'm thinking to myself, well, how about seeing if you can use them for good, for some positive stuff, to maybe use that to get the message across that it's really easy to do. So show them how it's done, and then show them how it's...
AI and training.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've mentioned metrics there a couple of times. What are the important ones? Because everybody has a different idea of metrics, right? And and most people think it's a pie chart, right? Most people just think that's it. What are the important ones that communicate the value of what you're doing to your business or organisation, rather?
I think it depends on the organisation, but go and ask the board. What do they want to see? Yeah. Often CISOs will spend months and months producing reports that no one ever reads.
Yep.
So what does the business want to see? It has to be focused on the business outcomes. It has to be risk-based. It has to help talk about how we protect the margin and the reputation of the business. It has to be in a consumable form. So there's no point in having a report of 50 pages long. If the board are interested, they'll ask. So you can then come in and have a deeper dive session. So typically I will get 10 to 15 minutes. I'll be helicoptered into the risk committee. I'll talk about the cybersecurity things. I'll talk about the physical security things. And then we'll talk about the road to green, the path to green. So I think to answer your question, I don't think there is a set of metrics that you can take to every board.
Yep.
It's about working with that board about what they expect to see. It's about using your expertise of the things that are painful. So what we have done in our current organisation is I've looked at the top 10 risks. I've quantified those by revenue, margin, cost to recover, and we've tried to prioritise those based on the business outcomes and where we want to go as a business. And then by reporting against those and the risks associated with those and the likelihood and the impact of those, we have a much more grown-up conversation about risk, contribution, margin, investment, because it makes it much easier. So we've chosen to link everything back to NIST. Or ISO 27001. But having a framework which then allows you to measure your risks against, which then gives you something to have the metrics to then report against, gives you a view. And in that way, I can say, these are the priorities for my business. This is where I need to spend the investment. These are the resources that I need. This is the journey that we're going on. And these are the messages we need to give at these various points, which all help grow the business, protect the revenue, protect the reputation. So I think it depends, Ian, on the organisation, but it's having that right relationship, that trust, and that respect from your organisational executives is key. You don't get trust and respect automatically. You have to actually work at that, and that takes a lot of time and effort to make sure you're talking to everybody at the water cooler or in a meeting. Don't surprise them at the risk committee or the board meeting, because executives don't like surprises, particularly if it's bad news. So honesty is also important. Don't flower it up and say everything's rosy, we're all good, if actually it's burning and you need to go and make some investment.
Or vice versa. Don't be Chicken Little and the sky's always falling in. When,
Absolutely. No, fear, uncertainty and doubt. We talked about vendors earlier on. They're really good at doing that. They're great at saying, buy our product, silver bullet and it'll all go away. The world is falling in and the risks are so big, they're going to kill you. Be honest, I think, with them. Share it, and then
relationship is key in every part of it, isn't it? Even with, you think the vendors that you work with are going to be the ones that you've got the best relationship with. They're the ones you're more likely to go to and ask them, what do I do for X, Y, and Z?
And work with them. We take a massive effort to really understand each other. What are they looking to achieve in their objectives as a business? How does that marry up with our business objectives? And be honest. If they can't deliver it, say, I can't deliver that, but I can look over here, or we can help you with this. And I think that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of integrity and honesty and being really, really clear on what your requirements are. Typically, I've seen lots of organisations fail because they go and buy the tech. As we said earlier, I'm not buying tech, I'm buying an outcome. So encourage your vendors not to come and talk to you about speeds, feeds, widgets, and technology. How can they contribute to your business? What part do they have to play? But more importantly, what do they not do?
But coming back to Manny's point, it's all about that relationship, but also you're buying from a trusted relationship. So if salesperson A was at vendor A and 2 years later they've moved to vendor B, and actually they're very similar, you're more likely to buy from vendor B than vendor A.
Absolutely.
Or even if they go to that, you get someone who's gone from vendor A to a completely different vendor A, if you like, you're now going to more likely to look at that new solution because someone you've trusted has gone over to them.
I think that is important because, products are not necessarily that sticky. You might buy a product today and in 3 years' time...
I don't believe you buy products. I think you buy people. I think
you do.
It's that relationship there. Like, I want to look at that because you think how many solutions are exactly the same? They do the exact same job, but I'm buying it because the person that I'm working with has convinced me to buy it, and it's that person.
I fundamentally agree. Absolutely agree that it is. And it's the same with employees. Many employees stay with you not because you might be the best payer on the market, or you might have the best product, or you might have the best capability, that they stay with you because of the trust that they have in you as a leader, the way that you communicate, and the way you empower people, I think is so important. There's no point in having a team recruiting very senior people and then doing the job. So it's about giving them the trust and the ability and freedom to go do it, but always be there if you need them.
It was always one of the pulls of the civil service, to be quite honest. Not that trust bit, but actually really interesting work and being on machines and devices that you wouldn't ordinarily be in a day-to-day job. That's the bit that I think for a lot of techies who start out in the civil service like I did, that's the bit that draws them in. You get that experience and then you move on to other stuff in Civvy Street then afterwards.
Interesting is the opposite for me, actually. I found it...
Ian.
I would find it... The reason I didn't go to the civil service, Ian, was because it was that having a change took so much red tape, and it was not really easy to change direction. And sometimes you need to change direction as the threat market changes or the landscape changes. So I did the same. I looked at civil service. I've worked in both central government. I've worked in commercial. The problem's the same. It's the speed of change,
Yeah.
which is what would have frustrated me in civil service. Not saying that it's not a great feeding ground.
It might have just been because I was lazy and essentially, that suited me at the time. Essentially, you've just outed me.
True to now.
Have I just outed you, Ian? Oh dear.
True to it now, to be honest.
Surely not.
I could tell you about what I did, but then I'd kill you. Not with any kind of martial arts, just with boredom. Just with general boredom.
And that's all the time we have for today. My name is Emmanuel Sonubi.
And my name's Ian Murphy.
Thank you very much, Tim, for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
We will see you next time on TLC Unfiltered.